Welcome to another episode of How I Mixed. Today we're going to tackle the 9-string monster that is Rob Scallon's Envy song. So this mix is slightly different because normally I don't do 9-string stuff and I am not working with MIDI drums per se. I'm working with an exported MIDI drum track in WAV format. So all I have is a single audio track that is the drums. I didn't have any MIDI to edit or anything like that, and the MIDI was programmed by Unnurse Nick Pierce. And so then Rob got that, gave me the MIDI and wanted something to record to, so then I exported him the audio, and that's what I ended up just working with because it was simpler and it was how Rob wanted it. So here's the mix. You notice right here's the track that I just got done talking about with the drums. These are his 2 guitar DIs. He was playing a 9-string Schecter with EMG pickups. And these are the 2 bass tracks. I have 1 DI, and then I have a reamped that I did a reamp with the DI, and I used a MXR bass compressor into a Sans amp RBI directly into the interface, and then I mixed the 2. So first, let's just start with the drums. So that's a sample of the drum track. Now we're gonna add some bass in, and the bass does not need to have a lot of low end because in 9-string stuff, you're dealing with, all of the bulk of your frequencies are in the lower register. So now you're wrestling with the kick drum, the bass guitar, and the guitars to fit in the same spot. So by itself, you're looking for the bass to add some attack and some general body, but not a lot of low end. I'm actually not even doing anything to the bass bus like I normally would. The only thing that's on the bass signal is basically a rat pedal simulator on the DI to add some grit. And let's check out the individual bass tracks here. So the RBI is adding the bulk of the low end and the body for the signal. The DI typically doesn't have a very dynamic range, so that's why I just used it for to add some of the grit on the top end. Now with the guitars were not simmed, and we didn't use a Kemper. At the time, I was doing the Mesa Boogie 50 cal video, and I still had that rig set up, so I just ended up using that, and the signal chain for that was the Mesa Boogie 50 cal, 50 watt head with 606 power tubes with a VFE focus, so I could control the high pass and low pass filters right in front of the amp while using it as a boost at the same time. And it was going into a custom 2x12 cabinet with Celestion creambacks into it. And for mics, since you see 4 tracks, I was actually dual miking, and that was an SM57 and an Sennheiser E609 for each guitar track. So here's how the guitars sound by themselves, and they're not going to have a lot of low end. We're going to get to that in the mastering part, but you don't want to lose the definition of the low note. And keep in mind, the guitar has EMG pickups, so they're not very good. They're pretty muddy in the lower register, to be honest, especially 9-strings, because they just weren't made for that, despite what EMG tells you. So here's the guitars by themselves. So the key here is to really get the level of the bass guitar to sit well with the guitars and to really kind of become one and not have them very individualized. So let's listen to one guitar track. Now with 9-string stuff, you really have to watch your frequencies. And so you'll see what I did in the EQ is I found and pinpointed some of the treble spots by sweeping. And I just have some dip at 190, 280, and 520. And that's about it. I'm not really adding much. I did add, see, I have Slate's virtual mix rack, and I did add a little bit of EQ using the Neve plugin within the virtual mix rack, and a little bit of thickness using the Revival saturator. But really, it's fairly minimal. And lastly, just to kind of tie everything together, I used Wave's NLS plugin, and that is basically on the SSL setting for all the guitars, and that's basically it. Now let's move on to the mastering step, and I'll show you the chain that I used at that time. So this is my mastering project. Now, it may look extensive, but it's really not. I started off with compression. I used the VBC Red from Slate, and then also from Slate, I then go into the virtual tape machine. Then I use the Slate virtual mix rack just to add a little bit more thickness. And then finally, I added the Sheps 73 Neve plugin, and this is any mid-side configuration. So one side controls the middle imaging, and the side controls the side imaging only, and we'll go over that in just a second. And then finally, you're squishing everything down with an Ultra Maximizer limiter, basically, just to chop off some of the extreme frequencies. So let's turn everything off and slowly turn them back on. And that is Rob Scallon's Envy. And it's really, really simple. There's not a whole lot going on. You just with the low string extended range stuff, you really just got to watch your low end and slowly add it back in as you need it, as opposed to the other way around and having something super bombastically bass heavy and then trying to figure out where you need to take away the low end. Thank you for watching. You've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. If you have another request for me for another episode of How I Mixed, please leave them below in the comments. And I thank you very much. I'll see you next time.